Hi Apple lovers, and welcome to another Apple buying guide. Apple just released their 2024 iPads. I'm going to give you my thoughts on them today, and I'm going to recommend out of all the iPads available which one I recommend that you should buy. So let's delve into the episode. Okay, so let's start by talking about the iPads that Apple just released. Now, before I do talk about them, I'm not really going to go into benchmarks and performance. I mean, at the end of the day, and spoiler alert, this is actually what I talk about later. This is all about actually how just because they're more powerful, it doesn't mean it's going to affect the average consumer's experience on the iPad. That's down to the software. Anyway, so they released the new iPad Air. The difference with this one, there is a 11-inch and a 13-inch option. They both had liquid retina display with P3 wide color and true tone. They've upgraded the M1 to the M2, which has 8-core CPU and 10-core GPU and 16-core neural engine. Now that last bit, the neural engine, is really important because Apple will be focusing on AI this year when they update iPadOS to 18, and that's going to be at next month's WWDC. The camera system on it, it's a 12 megapixel wide camera with 4K video. The front camera is still 12 megapixel ultra wide, but it's now moved to landscape orientation, which is everyone's wish since they did that with the iPad 10th generation. And this also has center stage. Security wise, it has Touch ID rather than a Face ID. Now, I'm a big fan of the iPad Air models. It's quite a change this year when it comes to the Air reference, which I'll talk about to you in a minute. So let's delve in and talk about the new iPad Pros, which are the star of the show, and this is really their wow device, their flagship iPad, which they're really touting. So this is available in 11 and 13 inch. It has that Ultra Retina XDR display with ProMotion technology, P3 wide color, true telecone, and there's an optional nano texture display glass, but you've only got the optional on the 1 terabyte and the 2 terabyte hard drive capacity models. All I will say with that, don't bother. All iPads come with anti-reflective coating anyway. If you're spending a lot of time outside, it might be worth it, but honestly, I wouldn't spend the extra £100 on the nano glass texture. Also, it's going to be a real pain to keep clean. So the main difference with these models is the display. They've finally gone with OLED, and they're calling it tandem OLED technology because they've put two OLEDs together. It's 1000 nits brightness, and it peaks at HDR brightness at 1600. Of course, they have introduced the M4 chip, so this is the first time they've introduced a new chip and put it straight in the iPad. Usually it go in Max first. Now, I wasn't surprised when I first heard the rumor of the M4 chip going in these. It made total sense to me, especially if they're not going to upgrade this device for another 18 months. So if they had put the M3 on, which there has been a problem with the technology they used to make it, then it would have gone to M3, and then by the time the next one comes out, the M5, it would have been messy. So I am not surprised at all, and I actually agreed with this prediction with the rumors. So with the M4 chip, you get up to 10-core CPU, 10-core GPU, and 16-core neural engine, which is 1.5 times faster CPU performance than the M2, which was in the previous iPad Pro generation. The camera has a 12 megapixel wide camera, 4K video, and ProRes, but that's 4K ProRes rather than 4K with the Air. It also has the front landscape 12 megapixel ultra wide front camera, which has center stage. It also has true depth system, which means you get the Face ID. And again, it's moved to landscape orientation, which was on everyone's wish list. So big tick to Apple for that one. The speaker system has changed, but they've gone down a speaker. So the 5th and 6th generation had 5 speakers. This has gone down to 4 speakers with no explanation. Now, what's really interesting about these, and I touched on it when I spoke about the Air, when it comes to Air models, for example, the MacBook Airs compared to the MacBook Pros, they're thinner and lighter. That's the way Airs have always been. However, this time around, the Pro is the thinnest and the lightest. So the 11-inch is 5.3 millimeters thin, whereas the 13-inch is 5.1 millimeters thin. That compares to the Air, which the 11 is 6.1, as well as the 13. So the Pro is actually thinner now, which is really interesting. Now, there is lots of debate, okay, how sturdy is it going to be? Now, there will be bend tests, and no doubt people will bend it, but that's physics. Anything will bend with the right amount of pressure. However, you should be keeping these iPads, especially because they're so expensive, in cases. So hopefully that will help with keeping it sturdy. I have no doubt in my mind that this is going to feel amazing. It's going to look amazing. And as for the weight, the Pros, the 11 is 444 grams and the 13 is 579 grams. That compares to the new Airs, where the 11 is 462, so the Pro is lighter, and the 13 Air is 617. So again, the Pro is lighter. So the iPad Air variant has gone from the lightest and thinnest to, for me, this is the main iPad. Now, the iPad Pro is the Pro model, more expensive, more luxurious, more premium. The entry-level iPad 10th generation, they've got rid of the 9th generation now. The iPad 10 is the budget model. Now, we're not going to touch on the iPad mini because that isn't a device in itself. Now, this is all very confusion. Now, for me, all Apple have to do to fix their options for iPads is have the iPad 10th generation. That's the budget model. Now, I believe the iPad mini should become the iPad mini Air, and then you have the iPad Air 11 and 13. So you should have 3 tiers of iPad Air. That would fix that out quite nicely. And then you have the Pro models. For me, that's the direction they should go. I'm not saying they are going to do that, but that's how I think they should do it. Okay, so next we're going to compare the newer generation iPads to what's already out there, so the previous generations. And this, for me, really is the main point of this video. My channel is all about getting the best deal, not spending a fortune, but still be able to have a really good Apple device. So let's start off by comparing the previous iPad Air generation. So the iPad Air 5th generation has the M1 chip. So really the only difference there is you're getting an extra 2 cores on GPU. They both have the 16-core Neural engine. I keep on talking about this Neural engine. Now, this does relate to what I think they will do with AI when it comes to iPad OS 18, but I'll talk to you about that at the end of the video. Now, for the iPad Air 5th gen, you can get this for £400. I've done some research on eBay today. Now, this is just buy it now prices, and all of these price comparisons and the models I'm talking about are the base models. So the iPad Air new one is from 599. Obviously, we don't have a 5th generation 13-inch model to compare it to, but actually that's a £200 savings or thereabouts. You might be able to get a better auction, and I've certainly managed to get them for about 320 in an auction if you know what you're doing there. So would I go for the new iPad Air over the 5th generation? No, only if you want the 13-inch. What they've done with the 13-inch, they've given you a cheaper price point for the bigger display. I'm a big fan of the 13-inch. So comparing those models, if you want the bigger screen, yes, get the new iPad Air. However, if you're happy with the 11-inch, go for the 5th generation. Save yourself at least £200 there. Now, comparing the older iPad Pros, let's talk about the 11-inch first, and we're going to talk about the 3rd gen. So this one has the M1 chip in it. So comparing the M1, which we have to compare to the M4 now, you're getting 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU, and the 16-core Neural engine. The M4 has 10 and 10. So you're getting the M1 chip instead of the M4. The display is still really, really nice on the iPad Pro because you get the ProRes. Now, it's almost unfair to compare the displays because of this new tandem OLED system, and that's really been the main focus of the new iPads. But where you can get an 11-inch for around about £470 at a buy it now price, maybe as low as 420 in an auction if you know what you're doing. That's quite a difference, where the new iPad Pro is from £1,000. So you could save yourself £550 there if you go for the previous model. Of course, the other prices you have available is Apple Refurb, refurbishment site. Now these are pretty much, I know they have to call them refurb, but they are like brand new devices. So have a look at Apple refurbishment website. It's not always guaranteed they're there, but if they do, that's almost like getting a brand new version of these generations. But the prices I'm quoting are from eBay. Now the other 11-inch, the 4th gen, the difference there is you have the M2 chip. So the CPU is 8 core, but the GPU is the same cores as the M4, and you have the 16 core neural engine. The 4th generation you do get for about £530. So comparing that to the 3rd generation on eBay, an extra £60, you'll get the M2, but remember, you'll get a newer device, which means your battery, in theory, is newer. So if you are debating the iPad Pro 11-inch, I would go for the 4th generation because you get the M2. That's not the reason why. The reason would be the newer device, newer battery, so you'll get the longevity. Now, the iPad Pro 12.9-inch, which is now in the newer model of 13-inch, that one is you can get for about 580 on a buy it now price. This has the M1 chip, so again, comparing to the M4, it's 8-core CPU and 8-core GPU, and you get the 16-core neural engine. So there's 2 cores difference to the newer generation, and again, the display, I'm not comparing it to the new display, that's new technology. Now, when it comes to the big change with the iPads is how thin they are. Nobody has requested a thinner iPad, and it's making a lot of people nervous. Holding my iPad, have I ever thought, man, this is too thick? No, I haven't. It's really comfortable in the hand. So for me, that's not worth potentially an extra. Let's have a look. The new ones are from 1,299. Well, actually, if you go 2 generations back, it's over half price cheaper. So do you want to pay double for a thinner display technically? Yes, the newer chip is longer. Is more powerful, but we'll talk to that when I summarize. And then, of course, you've got the iPad 12.9-inch 6th gen. Much like the 11-inch, the only difference there is the M2 chip, which has 2 extra GPU cores. Around about £680, so it's £100 dearer this time. Again, if you are happy going for a previous iPad Pro model and you can afford the extra £100, get the M2 version, just because you'll get an extra year life out of the battery in theory. Okay, so my recommendation out of all of these iPads we've spoken about today is definitely going to be, drumroll please, and the one I've got, which is the iPad Pro 12.9-inch 5th gen with the M1 chip, 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU, and 16 neural engine. So first is the 6th generation. It's the same, apart from the M2, which has the 2 more GPU cores. The average consumer, actually, even the Pro, so you can run, the only real Pro apps are Final Cut Pro and Logic. It runs on this one. You might get slightly different export times, but they are going to be very, very minimal. It's not worth the extra for the M2 version. Now this one, if you do want a larger display compared to the new Air, obviously the M2 does have the 2 extra GPU cores, but so this iPad Pro 12.9 5th generation compared to the new Air 13-inch, is again the M2 chip is in the new Air. However, this one has the better display because the Pro model has the liquid retina display, and you get ProMotion, which makes a big difference with the refresh rate. And of course, you are constantly scrolling. That's where the difference is. I certainly saw the difference. I went from the iPad Air fifth generation to this one, and I did really notice the difference with the ProMotion. So this one also beats the brand new Air. So if you are thinking about that iPad Air 13-inch model, do really consider this one, because for the sake, you can save yourself £200. Yes, it's an older device, but you do get a better display, and you're really not going to notice the difference when it comes to the M chip in it. Now, interestingly, this iPad Air 12.9 fifth generation compared to the brand new iPad Pro 13-inch, yes, it's 0.1 inch. You're really not going to notice that at all. Apart from the thinness and the weight, which is freaking people out a little bit. It has the same camera system. However, the fifth generation, the older one, has the extra 10 megapixel ultra camera. Now, not many people are recording videos with their iPads, but if you are, you lose the camera with the new iPad. And of course, there's that extra speaker. This one has an extra speaker. I haven't heard a sound comparison, but you'd like to assume an extra speaker is going to sound better. And they haven't explained why this happened. I can only imagine it's because they wanted to make it lighter and thinner. The front camera is the same. However, the only negative with this one is it's in portrait instead of landscape. Now, we've been used to the portrait for years, so for me, that's not a huge deal breaker. So that is why I believe this one is the way to go. It's going to be, like I said, 500, around about £580. Let's call it £600 versus 1,299, over half price cheaper. And for me, most people are not going to see the difference. However, if you're a pro user, you probably aren't even watching this video. And you probably haven't got this far in the video. If you're a pro user, get the brand new one. If you're an Apple fan that wants the latest and greatest, again, you're probably not even going to watch this video. But for the average consumer who I'm making this video for, on which one you should buy, it's the iPad Pro 5th generation 12.9 inch. So I just wanted to summarize. Now, I've mentioned iPad OS a few times. Now, what I think is going to happen with iPad OS 18, which is announced in June 2024 at WWDC, is we are all expecting, and as we should, lots of AI features coming out. Now, I do not think that they are going to have exclusive features only to the brand new iPads. If we look, they've all got the 16-core neural engine. That is what's going to be very important for the AI system. However, what I think they're going to do is anything that doesn't have an Apple Silicon chip, so the M1, M2, M4, there's no iPad with the M3, I think the AI features will be exclusive to that. Another note with iPad OS, this is getting a lot of bad press because obviously no matter what iPad or even iPhone you get, once you get used to how nicer the hardware feels, the experience is the same because it's the same operating system. I think there are things that Apple can do to improve iPad OS, and there should definitely be at this point a hybrid Mac OS, iPad OS. But all they really have to improve there for me is the file system, so files compared to Finder. But one of the other problems is app developers not making pro apps for this. Now we're starting to see this come through with AAA gaming titles coming out. Assassin's Creed is coming out. That's going to look amazing, but that will still run on a M-chip iPad. So there's also app developers not releasing pro apps for this. So it's not just down to Apple for me, the iPad experience, which personally, by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I love it. But I think that's what needs to happen in iPad OS 18, is that all AI things are exclusive to M1 chips, M chips, and app developers really need to start pushing it. But I think that will naturally happen with the AI stuff. So if you're going from a non-Apple Silicon iPad, go for my recommendation, the iPad 12.9 inch 5th generation with M1. Okay, so I've hoped you enjoyed this video and hopefully you agree with my recommendation. Have you ordered the new iPad? Do you disagree with anything? Please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your opinions. I'm not saying that I am 100% correct. This, of course, is only my opinion, but I think I've argued a good case. So please follow me on Instagram and Threads at TechHubWilts UK. Please like this video. Please subscribe to me for more videos, and I'll see you on the next one.